Hello, I am the Story Girl, and welcome to the story of the longest story in the world. Truth be told, King Rupert was a strange old king. A strange king that loved one thing most in the world: stories. He loved long stories, short stories, funny stories, stories that made you cry. And he had another thing that he loved most in the world: his daughter. And it just so happened that his daughter was of the age that she could be married. Well, of course, since he was the king and she was his daughter, the person that she married would become the next king, so he would have to be somebody of noble character, somebody of strength and wisdom, but best of all, he would have to be a fine storyteller. So, King Rupert set a test. Whichever suitor that came to court his daughter, they would have to tell the longest story in the world if they wanted to win her hand. The young men began to flock in from all over the lands. Princes, kings, knights, sons of princes, kings, and knights all came in and each got their chance to tell their story. They were presented before the king and they would start. Once upon a time there was a dragon who kidnapped 3 princesses and made them his slaves. But eventually, over time, every single story would end with, and then, and the king would say, "He won't do, out with him. I've heard stories much longer than that." And so it went for several months, and the princess was beginning to worry that she would never be able to marry anybody. When one day there came a young man. He might have been a merchant. He might have been a fisherman. He was a bit shabbily dressed, but the offer was open to any young man. He came in quietly and he sat before the king and princess and he said, "Your Majesty, I have for you the longest story in the world." "The longest story," said the king. "Well, that happens to be the title of every single story I've heard for the past 2 months." "Oh, but Your Majesty, this is the longest story in the world." "Well then, let's hear it," King Rupert said. Once upon a time, there was a farmer who owned acres and acres of land, and on every single square foot of land, he planted the most wonderful crop: gumballs. Yes, he planted gumballs as far as the eye could see, in every color and flavor you can think of. And they grew up a beautiful crop of nice, big, plump gumballs. Well, of course, this farmer knew that his crop was the most wonderful in all the world, and he wanted to keep it all for himself. And so, he built a large, stately barn on a large chunk of his land. He built it so large that it would hold his entire crop of gumballs. He harvested the gumballs and he packed his barn full of his crop. And then he left thinking that he had stored enough food for the entire winter. "Is that all?" asked King Rupert. "Oh no," said the young man. "You see, this barn was well built by the finest craftsmen in the world, and it was built specifically so that nothing and no one would be able to enter and steal the precious gumballs. However, they overlooked one small thing: a little hole. A hole just about big enough for a gumball to slide through." Just so happens that later on that very day, a little ladybug was flying past the barn and stopped at the scent, the fragrant smell of these gumballs sitting in the barn, and flew directly to this hole, crept in, picked up a gumball, and flew away. Then, a few seconds later, another ladybug flew by, smelled the smell of the gumballs, flew into the hole, picked up a gumball, and flew away. And then another ladybug flew over, smelled the gumballs, went into the hole, picked up a gumball, and flew away. And then another ladybug flew past the barn, smelled the gumballs, flew into the hole, picked up a gumball, and flew away. And then another ladybug came, picked up a gumball, and flew away. And then another ladybug came, picked up a gumball, and flew away. And then another ladybug came, went into the hole, saw all the gumballs, picked one out, and flew away. And then another ladybug came, smelled the smell of the gumballs, flew into the hole, picked up a gumball, and flew away. And then another ladybug came, went into the hole, picked up a gumball, and flew away. And then another ladybug came and flew into the hole, picked up a gumball, and flew away. And then another ladybug came, flew into the hole, picked up a gumball, and then flew away. And then another ladybug came, flew into the hole, picked up a gumball, and flew away. And then another ladybug came and flew into the hole and picked up a gumball and flew away. And then another ladybug came and flew into the hole and picked up a gumball and then flew away. And then another ladybug came and went into the hole and picked up a gumball and then flew away. And then another ladybug came and flew into the hole, picked up a gumball and flew away. And then another ladybug came, flew into the hole, picked up a gumball and flew away. And then another ladybug came, flew into the hole, picked up a gumball and flew away. And then another ladybug came, flew into the hole, picked up a gumball, and flew away. And then another ladybug came. "Excuse me," said King Rupert. "Is this story ever going to end?" "Why, no, Your Majesty. This is the longest story in the world." "Well then," said King Rupert, "I must say, it's the longest story I have ever heard. My boy, you may have her." Well, the princess was quite pleased with the handsome-looking young man, but she had one condition. She would only marry him if he promised never to tell that story ever again. The end. Hi, I'm the Story Girl, even though my friends sometimes call me the Dragon Lady. And if you like the longest story in the world, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and go ahead and share it to anybody else that you feel would love to join in the story. Thank you for joining in the story today. If you have a story that you would like to hear, leave me a comment below, and I'll see about finding it, learning it, and telling it for next time. Bye!